We tell people all the time, we can't keep bears from coming through your yard, but we can teach you how to keep them from wanting to stay.
So BearWise.org, right?
Yes.
Great resource. All those things that we can be doing as property owners and humans just in those areas, putting up trash, putting up the dog food. The bird feeder thing, I don't think about as much. And that, I keep being reminded of that when I talk to you guys. It's like, that's a source, and you just don't think that's for the birds. It's hanging up. You don't think about it.
We just call them bear feeders. That's what they are. We got, almost 400 calls in the month of August. And so it's a lot of on the ground going to talk to people, looking at what damage they have, trying to give them the best advice on what to do. And BearWise is a great start, and people can find a lot of that information, but there's some tips and tricks that might be better or worse on somebody's property or easier to use, and that's a lot of what the site visits entail.
It has been a big year, and we've already exceeded our highest year ever for calls. Moving the bear without addressing the attractant gets you nowhere. We're trying to find the root of the problem in these situations and give people the knowledge they need to make long-term solutions so they don't have bear conflicts.
If you take the steps to lock that thing up, if communities get together and secure their attractants, bears will still walk through every now and then, but they're not going to be causing all those issues. They're going to eat whatever seasonal foods might be in your neighborhood.
Won't you take me back to Tennessee?
The award-winning Tennessee WildCast is on the air with the latest info about hunting, fishing, boating, wildlife watching, and all things outdoors. This year, we celebrate the men and women of the TWRA responsible for 75 years of wildlife conservation. Now make welcome your host, Jason Harmon.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to this edition of Tennessee WildCast. We're glad you're tuning in. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. We got a great show lined up for you today. It's all about bears, and we're in bear country. So we're here with Matt Cameron at the Region 4 office. He's lined up a great show for us today with Mr. Dan Gibbs and Janelle Musser. So we're excited about this today.
Yeah, buddy. Glad to have some, I'll call them bear experts with us today to inform us.
Yeah, and I said bear country, but you know what? We're seeing bears all over the state here in Tennessee. They're popping up everywhere. We're going to get into that today.
Correct.
I'm excited to talk about this today, but first I want to highlight WOKI News Talk 98.7 in Knoxville. Thank you for running our show Saturday mornings, or Saturday afternoons, I guess, at 1:30. You can catch this show on WOKI. We appreciate our radio partners, our TV partners, the folks out there listening on social media and podcasting platforms. Just thanks for following us, liking us, and sharing us. So today, I mentioned Dan Gibbs. He's our black bear coordinator for the state, and then Janelle Musser is our black bear support biologist. And you guys are great at what you do, very knowledgeable. We appreciate you being on the show to talk about bears today.
Welcome.
Yeah, thanks for having us.
Don't be shy. This is nothing new. This is nothing new for you guys.
So, everybody's seen The Wizard of Oz, right? So Dorothy's famous for saying, what 3 animals?
Lions, tigers, and bears.
Oh, my.
Oh, my, yeah.
So
yeah.
we have Janelle instead of Dorothy, and it's what?
Bears, and bears. Oh, my.
Oh, my. Instead of oh, my, we're going to say O'Brien.
O'Brien.
We've had a recent sighting in West Tennessee, and we're going to get into all that because Tennessee, and they'll tell you, was formerly, historically, had bears statewide. Mm-hmm. And it's been reduced to the mountains because that's the only protected areas way back in the 40s, 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s. But now they are kind of colonizing their former range. So we're starting to see them in West Tennessee again. And they are going to tell us how to be responsible and live responsibly with black bears.
Definitely. Yeah, let's jump into that sighting. It was September. I guess, at first it was O'Brien, and then it moved toward Paris, right?
Yeah.
Henry County. So
moved up into Kentucky most likely, and then dropped back down.
I think it was in Weekly, too, for a short time.
Okay, well, tell us how this bear got there. Was it living in the area? Help. Well,
most importantly,
with those myths.
Most importantly, we did not take it there.
Yeah. We're not moving bears around like that, are we?
No. We're not moving bears to West Tennessee. But if you look at the people who live out there, Arkansas and Missouri both have very healthy populations. They have growing populations. So these bears in those states are expanding their range. And So you'll see more of that. It'd be a common thing. I've had people ask if it came from Kentucky. Kentucky's bear population is doing very well, but this bear most likely came out of Missouri or Arkansas. And yes, bears are very good swimmers, and the Mississippi River is nothing for a bear to cross, and they'll do it in a heartbeat if they want to get to the other side.
Yeah, and they've been there before, right? Like we talked about. I mean, early years.
Yeah, we've had sightings in Memphis over the years and other parts of Region 1, but, those hardwood bottoms back before they were cleared, they held a lot of bears. And even today, you get into coastal Louisiana, coastal North Carolina, they have tremendous bear populations in those types of habitats. So these hardwood bottoms can hold bears, and they're going to use that. And we've learned over the years, too, that bears don't need these huge expanses of undisturbed habitat like we used to think deer needed and turkey needed and bears, and none of them really need that to do well. Bears will eat just about anything. They eat grass, they eat acorns, they eat berries, so they can do very well. And the main thing, you just don't want them to start finding those easy foods, the same things we talk about in East Tennessee. If you've got bear sighting in your county, take your bird feeders down for a few days. We're not to the point in those parts of the state where we need to ask people not to feed birds for 9 months out of the year. Just take them down and let that bear move on. Maybe pull your trash in the garage for a few days. If you don't have that, just take it off to a convenience center or something. And because this bear is just going to move, it's not that they have huge home ranges, and this one is just trying to develop a home range, and it may end up staying around in that area, and people may see it occasionally, and it pops up. But
and it's cool. It's
cool
and
we tell people all the time, we can't keep bears from coming through your yard, but we can teach you how to keep them from wanting to stay. But even if you have a pear, in East Tennessee, we're getting a lot of calls about bears eating pears right now. Until those pears are gone, the bear's going to be in the area, and people just have to recognize that and understand that they just need to do things a little different for a few weeks, and those bears will move on. So.
And we see walkabouts with all sorts of animals too. That's kind of what, like this bear could say, or he could just hang out for 2 weeks eating whatever food source he smelled and followed his nose to it, and then he goes back to wherever he was originally at. And you see that all the time when you collar animals. It's amazing, even with deer, right? They live in one small area, and then for whatever reason, they walk 20 miles and stay there for 7 days, and then they walk back, and they never go back again. It's like, why did they do that? It's usually a food source. So wherever this bear has been at, maybe its usual fall food isn't there or something, and it's like, I'm going to go travel, and I'm going to find it. And it's been on this walkabout trying to find what it wants. Right. And it might find it, it might not. So if it doesn't, it might go back. If it does, it might stay. Maybe only for a couple days, couple weeks. Might stay there forever. You never know.
You think it's a male bear just looking at the photographs?
Yeah, it's got that
size bear.
It's got that big blocky head, so it doesn't seem like it's our typical bear that's a juvenile that's out on its own trying to find a place. This bear probably has an area it lives, but it just, like I said, for whatever reason, it's trying to find something that wasn't where it's at.
This is a good time to see bears, and they're out doing their thing. It seems like the last time we were here, it was about a problem bear that came into a cabin, and we talked about that on the show. But you're going to see bears this time of year, and
Fall hyperphagia.
Are you ready for it?
Yeah.
Hyper what?
Explain that to folks.
Hyperphagia.
Us East Tennesseans, what that means.
That means that they overeat. It's a big word for meaning they,
I get that
they
all the
walk
time.
up.
Oh, yeah.
Right.
I do that every day then.
Thanksgiving. Dinner.
So they go from like 5,000 calories a day to 20,000 calories a day.
Whoa.
So if you think about that, their activity changes, because if you're trying to find that much food, you have to be out and about a lot. So this is when we start getting daytime active bears, and that really worries people. But
Right.
bears are not nighttime active animals necessarily.
Okay.
They're bears. They do what they want.
Yeah.
So just like this walkabout or being out during the day.
So BearWise.org, right?
Yes.
Great resource, and all those things that we can be doing as property owners and humans just in those areas, putting up trash, putting up the dog food, the bird feeder thing I don't think about as much, and that I keep being reminded of that when I talk to you guys. It's like that's a source, and you just don't think that's for the birds. It's hanging up. You don't think about it, but take those in, and little things like that people just don't Don't know. Especially if you don't live in like bear country,
That one little feeder that big of black oil sunflower seeds has thousands of calories. I mean, it's just they just can't pass that up this time of year when they're needing, 20,000 calories a day. There's 10% of what they're looking for just laying there. And so they're going to really seek out those easy meals.
It's like a neighborhood I was in just yesterday. Exactly that. They've had bears come through occasionally, but it's not an area where they regularly have it. And I was handing out information, and the lady goes, "Oh, that's why my bird feeder was on the ground this morning then." And I said, "Yep." She's like, "I just thought it was a random wind that came through." And I'm like, "Where'd you think the bird seed went?"
Yeah.
So yeah, people don't think about it as much because you're right. They just sunflower seeds. They think birds, not bears.
Yeah.
But we just call them bear feeders. That's what they are.
Well, touch on a little bit about what you're doing day to day. I mean, you're both of you are on the ground, but I mean, like you're going around talking to these people and educating them, right?
Yeah.
A lot of that. You get a lot of calls, and you're in your truck. You're total drive time.
Yes. Yeah, we got almost 400 calls in the month of August, which is a lot for us here in Tennessee. And so it's a lot of on the ground going to talk to people, looking at what damage they have, trying to give them the best advice on what to do. And BearWise is a great start, and people can find a lot of that information, but there's some tips and tricks that might be better or worse on somebody's property or easier to use. And that's a lot of what the site visits entail too, giving people that better advice and things like that.
We've been getting a lot of calls about what makes this year different than others. And it has been a big year. And if we've already exceeded our highest year ever for calls, and we haven't even gotten but just a few days into September, and we've got October coming. So luckily we're seeing some pretty good production of acorns right now, and that may help a lot. But we've got a lot of calls, and to the point that for the first time ever, we're actually bringing people in from other parts of the state to help. People are coming and working 2-3 day shifts to do some things that, really seem fairly common and routine and not that big of a deal, but it really helps us out. But when you're trying to catch a specific bear and you can't catch that bear because you have to keep going back and letting non-target bears out of the trap. So then you have to sit on the trap and literally run those bears off that you don't want to catch. That's the kind of stuff we're dealing with right now. And so it makes it challenging for sure. But, it's just, there's some changes that are going to have to happen across East Tennessee to deal with these conflicts in the future, because we're getting more people. The bear numbers are going up in some areas. Other areas are pretty stable. But even with the number of bears remaining stable, the number of people that we're getting is going to cause conflicts to go up if nothing else changes.
So let's talk about those changes that need to be made and to circumvent some of these issues.
Yeah. And I'd like to, we are seeing some of those changes already, which is awesome.
Yes.
We've had businesses spend several $1,000s on bear resistant trash cans for their parking lots, things like that, on signage, stuff like that. That's been huge, and it is making a big difference. Gatlinburg switching out their dumpsters, that's making a huge difference. But one of the biggest things I think we keep getting pushback on is, we used to move a lot of bears. We did move those bears, and we're not really moving bears anymore. And that's because it's really not a bear issue. It's a people issue and an attractant issue. And that's kind of what we're talking about. That mindset has to change when it comes to bears. Because really, when you're moving a bear, what you're doing is you're saying, well, Jason, you don't want this bear in your yard, so I'll take it down to Matt's yard, basically, and that's not fair. Yeah. So it's not fair to do that. There's no further and deeper in Tennessee. These bears, like we said, they cover huge areas.
Yeah.
So there's nowhere that they can go that's just completely void of people. That's very rare. So that has to change.
Not the solution, correct?
Right, and we talked about this I talked about it at a meeting the other day with some hunters, and they were talking about moving bears. And I said, well, I've got one from Gatlinburg that I need a place to go. Who would want me to bring it to their home? And I had one guy raise his hand. I said, did I mention it breaks into cars? And he's like, oh, well, maybe not, So it is, and there's some good data out there that the Smoky Mountains National Park has recently finished up on a research project that the bulk of those bears that get moved, 80% of them, almost 80%, are dead within 4 months. And they're dead for a lot of different reasons. Some are killed during hunting season, which is not a bad thing. They are utilized by hunters, but that's not what the person that's asking the bear to be moved is envisioning, right? They try to come back, and they get hit by cars, or they go somewhere else and create the conflicts, and then we end up having to euthanize them. So the chances of the bear going and living happily ever after, people think that's really not reality, right? And it takes a lot of effort. We just talked about what it takes to trap a bear, and then you go into the movement part. So if you do have a place that you think you can take it, you got to get it down there and all that. So it's we're still moving bears on occasion, but we were very, very selective. Janelle looked this morning. We've moved 5 bears this year. That's all we've moved. And they're very selective. They're bears that we believe that they're early enough in the conflict stage that we can get them moved, and they probably will not repeat that behavior. That's one of the biggest issues is we don't find out about the behavior that even if we wanted to move the bear, it would probably be too late anyway, because they've gotten so far down that spectrum that there's no turning back. And that's one of the big issues is people wait way too long to react.
To make the change.
Yeah, they think it's kind of neat that the bear's getting their bird feeders, they fill it back up and let it get it again, and they let this go on for a couple of weeks, and then they pick up the phone and call and say, this bear's on my porch and it's tearing things all to pieces. Well, you should have done something 2 weeks ago when it got in the bird feeder, and you probably wouldn't have this situation.
And once that behavior is there, moving it doesn't change that behavior.
No, he's just looking for another bird feeder.
But there's also a lot of misconception about, that bears lose the ability to naturally forage. That's not the case. Right. We see bears that eat in your garbage and eat in your trash and your bird seed. They still eat natural foods. It's just that if you're a bear and you can eat acorns along the way to a garbage can, that's what you're going to do, but you're still going to take advantage of those extra calories. And so that's why if you can stop it early enough and say, oh man, a bear got in my bird feeder, I'm just going to bring this in, or a bear got in my garbage, I'm going to stop it, that bear will go back to eating the natural foods. Yeah. It will.
Can you talk about...
Well, I'm just going to say, you were talking about some footage y'all captured of bear eating what they should be eating right behind a dumpster, because that dumpster was locked and they could not get to that food or that trash. They're just taking part of the acorns and whatever's right there.
Right in the middle of Gatlinburg, where you think all they do is eat, cotton candy and pizza.
Corn dogs or whatever.
Yeah, exactly. Eating acorns. It was awesome.
They still prefer natural foods. It's just they want the calories too. So if you take the steps to lock that thing up, if communities get together and secure their attractants, bears will still walk through every now and then, but they're not going to be causing all those issues. They're going to eat whatever seasonal foods might be in your neighborhood. You might have black raspberries along the back of your property. They'll stop and eat that, but they're not going to be causing that extra issue and stuff. So it's really...
And help me understand this. Is this a compounding issue of them eating their natural diet and getting this subsidized diet, this artificial diet? The sows are so much healthier now, they're producing more young. Is that factual?
Yeah.
Up to the 4 and 5.
But they don't live as long either.
Yeah.
So help people understand that. And then she's teaching her cubs bad behavior, and so she has to be humanely killed.
So it's a combination of things. It's, yes, they're getting those extra calories, so bears are delayed implantation. So even though they breed in June and July, they're really not truly pregnant until they bulk up and get really fat in the fall. And if we had a mast failure, they might only have 1 cub or maybe no cubs. But when they get all this human food, they get really fat. And so they can have 3 or 4, or we've even seen this summer, we've seen 5 cubs with a female. But the flip side of that, Asheville has done research and Durango, Colorado, that these bears don't live as long. They end up getting hit by cars. They cause issues in agencies. have to put them down. They have a lot of health issues.
Right.
You know, they can eat stuff that blocks up their intestines, cuts their intestines, their stomach. They die of an infection, all sorts of nasty stuff.
Diabetes.
Yeah, their teeth rot.
Yeah.
And
Just
they
like
get an
for humans.
abscess,
Yeah, exactly.
get an infection once again. So all sorts of bad stuff when they eat it. So generally, even though, yes, they have more cubs, now their survival is less. But the biggest thing about the human food aspect is generally it's right up next to us.
Right.
It's not, like I said, it's not the black raspberries on the back side of your property. It's your trash can right against your garage.
Right.
So now you're bringing those bears really close to us. And yes, training those cubs, hey, people aren't so bad. People mean we get food. So they're more likely to come around people even when they're kicked out.
A real good example of that too. We keep getting questions about Gatlinburg, and they spent over $2 million on these dumpsters, and they're very good dumpsters. They're doing their job, and people are blaming the dumpsters for the increased activity in Gatlinburg, and it's partially true, right? But also people are going, did we make a mistake? Like, no, they did not make a mistake. They did not. Getting bears out of dumpsters was not a mistake. But what it's done, when you think about where most of these dumpsters are located, on the back of the property, away from people's views. So these bears were getting in these dumpsters, eating lots of trash, a bunch of it. They really had no reason to leave that dumpster. It was a consistent food source for some of these animals. And bears are like people. You have some that are going to just stay on the trash, and others that are going to not hit it as much. So, but you had this going on when now all those food sources are locked up, and that's making them seek out the ones that want the trash. They're going to come closer to people and hit those trash cans that are next to the door at the hotel, or go into these construction dumpsters that aren't secure. So it's really, what it's doing is these dumpsters are really pointing out the areas that still need attention, right? That's what it's doing, because now the bears are, instead of having one bear in your dumpster, you've got 4 over here because this bear, and this bear all now found this food source. So it's really highlighting and pointing the fingers down, hey, here's some issues that need to be addressed. And there's still things that need to be addressed. But Gatlinburg's definitely on the right track. And we're trying to work to figure out some ways to deal with things like the construction dumpsters and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But, that's just one of the myths that people have, that relocation, if you just move these bears, the issue is taken care of. Because at the end of the day, moving the bear without addressing the attractant gets you nowhere. It's just treating, back pain with an aspirin, right? Mm-hmm. You got to figure out what's causing the pain. And another one of those are the depredation permits. And that's been used a lot in the past, especially with homeowners and bears, getting into different things. And what's been the challenge there is that, once again, the same thing with moving a bear, you give a person a permit and it gives them this sense of security that if the bear comes back, then I can take care of the issue. And most of the time permits aren't utilized because the bear doesn't come back. But when you give that person a permit, that doesn't give them any incentive to address the attractant, right? And so we've been really getting a lot more stingy with permits, and we give them out when they're appropriate, especially like in large production of agriculture, corn, things like that, where it's just not feasible to put electric fence up around a 150-acre cornfield. We're going to give those guys those permits. But when a bear's coming in and getting chickens, and we walk in and say, it killed all my chickens, so they don't have any chickens, well, we need to talk about what you're going to do to get ready for the chickens that you're going to replace these with, because if you don't do something differently, the bear's going to get your next chickens too. And even if you kill that bear, the next bear that comes on is going to get your chickens. So we're not looking for short-term Band-Aids and aspirin. We're trying to find the root of the problem in these situations and give people the knowledge they need to make long-term solutions so they don't have bear conflicts. Are they still going to have bears walk through their property and maybe take a look at their chicken house and sniff around it? Yeah, but if they've got electric fence up, it's not going to get their chickens.
Right?
That's what I always tell people, is I don't want to give you a false sense of security, because that's what people say all the time. Well, you're not helping. If trapping and moving a bear was the answer and would help people, we would keep doing it because I promise it's a lot more fun on our end, right? We got into these jobs because we want to do that stuff. It's fun to trap a bear,
Interact
tag
with
it,
all of it.
move it, but that's not what helps you at the end of the day. It doesn't, because, we're dealing with an issue right now with a homeowner. A bear was trapped a few years ago on their property, and within 2 weeks they had a bear back. So tried to address this situation. It's 2 years later and they still have bear issues, right? They still have bears coming around, accessing the garbage, accessing an outdoor fridge. It doesn't really help you, and it gives people a false sense of security when that bear is moved.
They could have taken care of it 2 years ago, and they wouldn't be having these issues. But
And it's very simple things to do. I mean, remove that refrigerator, lock the trash,
right.
your problem solved.
But it is important, and we try to do this when we're talking to people. It is a change. It's a big change, and it can be, there's a real nice two-sided flyer on BearWise.org about the home owner's checklist. And when you first see that, it can be kind of overwhelming, especially if you're living like in a severe county, a blunt county, even in the Tri-Cities. You mean, I got to do all this stuff? And it's like, well, maybe not. Just choose the ones that apply to you. If you don't compost, then you don't have to worry about this. If you don't have pets, you don't have to worry about this. Mm-hmm. But everybody has trash, right? So you're going to have to address the trash issue. But once you get there, you'll be glad you did it. And I was telling Janelle, my son coming home last night, or earlier this week, he comes in and says, Dad, look at this video. There's a bear running down the road within a quarter mile of our house.
Oh, yeah.
And it's like, this is like the second or third report in the area this year. And I'm one of these that, I've never had bears around my house before. Well, I live in Greene County. They can be around my house. And they've been around my house before. It's just they've never been seen, right? Mm-hmm. These trail cameras, these Ring cameras are really showing people what's always been there. They just didn't realize it.
Right.
So now, I'm going to have to spend some time putting an electric fence around my chickens because if I don't want this bear or these other bears that are starting to utilize that part of Greene County, I got to make some changes. And I'm sitting here trying to figure out how I'm going to do it and what's going to be easier. But it's going to be a little bit of inconvenience. I mean, when I mow, I'm going to have to take that fence gate and open it up and get in there and weed eat. And every time we go up to the chickens, we're going to have to do that. But it's just part of living here. And we'll get used to it. But we won't lose our chickens to bears. And that's the key, right?
Sounds like a good spot for some videos there, Matt. We could go teach people how to take care of
I
some
got to
stuff
go with
like
Janelle last year, and she put an electric fence. What was it around his water source? Or
Yeah, it's like water tank or whatever. For some reason, bears were tearing it up.
She constructed a neat fence around. I got a lot of footage of it. The bear didn't come back.
No, which is pretty common, though. I was just talking to a colleague, and they said they had loaned out an electric mat to somebody. Same thing, another similar concept as a fence, but the bear steps on it. And, they said they never saw the bear again on their porch. And I was like, yeah, because they can sense that electric. So sometimes just having it is enough. They don't come back around.
Electric mat. That's something I've never thought about or heard.
Unwelcome mat.
Yeah. Unwelcome.
And they work really well.
Electricity is the future for securing attractants for bears.
There's a show just on that right there.
Yeah,
showing people how to do it. I think people don't know how to hook a fence up, have no knowledge, experience of it. So we need to show them how.
People are scared of it.
People are scared of it, and they don't need to be.
Maybe we should drop a tailgate on that one, Matt.
Let's go, man.
Yeah.
Well, this has been great. Like you said, we didn't even have to talk. We just had all the knowledge right here.
And we didn't even get halfway through our notes.
Yeah.
But I think we hit on some good stuff today. Yeah. Some good stuff. So I appreciate you guys doing this. We'll do it again. And we do it every year, it seems like. So it's good information to keep sharing. So we'll keep coming back.
Yeah.
Thanks for having us.
Go to BearWise.org.
Yep. Good resource. BearWise.org. All that information is there. And it can be applied on your property and in your area. So this is Tennessee WildCast. Thanks for coming back. Thanks for watching, for listening. We'll see you next time.
Stay connected with TWRA by visiting our website at tnwildlife.org and follow us on Facebook, X, and Instagram. Join us as we celebrate 75 years of conservation in our great state. You can invest in Tennessee's wildlife future by purchasing a license at GoOutdoorsTennessee.com. That's GoOutdoorsTennessee.com.